We're going to look at wheels and brakes and discuss the options I used to go with the standard setup for this car. So here on the car we have 4 lug nut wheels. These came stock in the Fox body Mustangs. Many people are converting them over to 5 lug, but I'm going to keep them at 4. So we're going to take these off, and I thought this would be a good opportunity to teach some younger people how to change the tires. So on the front, we're going to have one of our older helpers do the front tire, and in the back we're going to have one of the younger do the back tire. Now it's always a good idea to take the lugs and loosen them up while the car is down, and you do it in a crisscross fashion. So you're going to do the left side, then the right side, then the top, then the bottom, and you're just going to loosen them up, and then you're going to jack the car up, and you're going to take the rest of them off. And the reason you do that is because the wheel could pop off or otherwise damage the vehicle if you try to take the lugs off without jacking up the car. As you can see, we're using the classic tire iron instead of any kind of pneumatic tool or power tool. This is because likely if you're in a tire changing situation with a flat, you're not going to have access to any other tools. Now you're also going to take off the lugs in the crisscross fashion that you loosened them in order to keep the tire even, so that it doesn't make it more difficult or allows you to cross thread. Here we teach any way that you can get the tire off is a valid way to do it. Here our helper used their feet. As you can see, we replaced the rotor, we replaced the brake pads. In a previous short, I described how brakes became a priority in my restoration of the 7-Up Fox body Mustang. And also while we were here, we did the struts. The car was shaking pretty badly, and so all of these things needed to be addressed. It's a fine job, even if I do say so myself. Let's get that tire up there any way we can. In this portion, our helper decided to use their feet. I say good job. Again, when we're putting the tire back on, we're going to put the lugs in a crisscross fashion. We're going to do the top, the bottom, left and right. And again, we're just trying to get them finger tight here, and then we'll tighten them down in a moment. We want to make sure that these are tightening on nice and easy with our fingers, and to make sure that we're not getting any cross thread. Again, it's important that we're getting a nice even fit for these lugs, and when we lower the tire, the car, we'll make sure that we fully tighten these. And again, we're going to use the tire iron, and it's always important to find the right size, so there may be some flipping and looking around as we get ready to put it on there, but then we'll go ahead and get those tightened up, and then check the wheel out. Okay, I think this one's ready to lower the car and tighten the lugs to their full potential. We want to make sure that when we're lowering the car, we do so in a slow, even manner. We don't want the car just to drop. Remember, the lugs are not snug tight yet. There's all manner of ways of getting the lugs a little bit more snug before you lower the car, but that's the way we do it here. Now we have the car all the way lowered. Let's go ahead and check these lugs out and make sure we can get them tightened up. Sometimes when you're out on the street or in a pinch, you don't have a torque tool, so let's get them snug tight with our hands, and then let's use another additional measure to make sure that we're getting them tight as we can. Foot, that's a good idea. Traditionally, you'd want to use a torque wrench if you're not out on the street, if you're in a garage setting, and about an average of 100 pounds of pressure is usually going to work. There's a variation, but trying about 100 should do it. Now here we have the youngster, his first time to ever change a tire, and let's see what we can do. Again, we loosened up the lugs before we jacked up the car. I didn't show that here, but again, it's the same methodology. Now we're doing crisscross here to loosen up the lugs the rest of the way and take them out. Here he is identifying that it may feel loose, but the lug nut is not out yet. There we go. Now we're going to the next one. We're going to do left, and then we're going to do right. Again, we want to make sure that we're keeping the wheel as even on here as we can. Notice the 4 lug configuration. Obviously, if we're going to do 4 lugs in the front, we're also going to do 4 lugs in the rear. These are original wheels, and that's how I'm choosing to do this car, is to keep everything as stock as possible. Now remember, when you're taking these off, you need to keep that wheel flat and square so the lugs can come off nice and easy without any cross threading. Make sure you have the right size. It's a good idea to know the size of your lugs, that way you're not wasting time trying to figure out which one on the tire iron you need to be using. But it is only 4 choices, so it's not going to be like you're going to be there all day if you don't memorize it. Here we are. He's going to try to get this tire off the first time by himself. Okay, maybe not. All right. Now look here, we're using the drum brake. We're going to keep that same original configuration that the car had. Oh, we didn't lay that tire down. That could have been a bad mistake if we were out in the public environment, but luckily we were here in a controlled environment, so no harm, no foul. But we learned our lesson now, didn't we? Keep the tire in a stationary position. All right, we got to check out the drum brake. Everything's in working order. We had to replace those just like we had to replace the front brakes, and we hope to stop this time when needed in a quick attempt to avoid a collision. All right, now let's see if he can get this tire on here. He didn't make any alignment points, so he may have to do it a couple attempts, but we'll see how he does. Again, this is very first time of ever removing and putting on a tire, so we can expect there to be some learning curve here. This is one of the important parts of maintaining cars, be able to take the tire on and off. As you saw here, we're trying to get to the brakes. Can't get to the brakes without taking off the tire, and who knows, you may need to replace a flat tire, so good practice. Here he's going to try to get his feet underneath it and pick up that tire. I like them to try it themselves and see if they can do it before I intervene. I had it almost lined up. Let's get that thing on there all the way. It's not as easy as it looks. You see those race cars and they're just throwing wheels on there, but they're not set up like this. It's still nice to see how fast they can do it out on a track. Here we don't have any rush. We're not out in the street, so it's okay for him to take his time learning how to do it. Now let's get those lugs tightened up. Again, we're going to be tightening them hand tight first to make sure that we're not getting any cross thread. And we're putting them in crisscross again. I like to do top to bottom, left to right, but to each their own. All right, now let's see if we can get these things tightened up. He's actually going to start on the bottom. And he's spinning that tire iron. You know, once you do this a time or two, you really learn how to spin it and hold it where it doesn't seem to take as long. All right, I think he's gotten that one pretty much tightened up. Let's go to the next one. Again, this is the same process that we saw our older helper doing. They've had a time or two changing tires, so there wasn't much of a learning curve there. And here we go. We got the right one tightened now. Now we're going to go to the final one. You're going to get these as tight as you can. And you know that when the car has the tires elevated, they just spin once you get them certain tightness. So you're not going to be able to just tighten them fully without some kind of leverage. So we'll get this car lowered, and then we'll get them snugged up best we can. Got a little bit of checking here just to make sure that we got them as tight as we can before we lower the car. Now we're going to lower the car, and we should be careful. We don't want to drop the car quickly. There goes. Nice and slow. Oops, fast. Well, that could be dangerous, but in this case, we had the emergency brake on, we had the car in park. We're good here. Thanks for watching. Go ahead and subscribe. You haven't done it already? Don't forget to smash the thumbs up if you enjoyed the video, and of course leave comments. I love the interaction.